this is going big. You can see you're out of your body. And so it's like you're doing this huge thing. And I said that, it's like this is a really big thing, but you're just going to burn yourself out.
Mhm.
Remember that? And then what are you telling me about what was happening in your business,
Yeah, I was like, God damn it, how do you know this? It's exactly
So,
my pattern. Like, try to go too big and then burn out. Yeah.
right. And then afterwards, beat yourself up,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
Going into this self abuse.
Oh my God.
Hi, this is Andrew Daniel, and in the video you're about to watch, you'll see an interview between myself and one of my private clients who is just wrapping up his first 6-month program with me. In this video, he shares some of the unique challenges that Cinesomatics presented him as he started this work, plus all of the lessons, the realizations, the wisdom, the changes, the healing, and transformations that occurred in his life, his business, and in his relationships. Enjoy. So we just got done with our final session over your first 6-month program here. So welcome. Thank you for agreeing to do this. I think it'll be helpful for a lot of people to see what kind of results this work produces and your journey, because you've certainly learned a lot from this. So if you want to just start by telling us a little bit about yourself and who you are, or at least what you can tell us of yourself, because you're a bit in the public. Um, Whatever you would like to start with of about yourself, and just share a little bit about what brought you here. What brought you to begin this work?
Um, Let me start with something I want to own, which is I started this work um, to put it bluntly, wanting to kill Andrew, and unfortunately, I still have not succeeded in the task. So he's got
I'm
to go.
immortal.
Yeah, sure. I I run a tech company. I'm somebody who's always been into inventing things, science, um, just understanding how the world works, and super analytical, very heady. And I just thought I would read myself to solving everything. And it sounds funny because it's obvious that won't work, but it's crazy how convinced I was that everything was just something to be solved. I could figure it out if I like went deep enough, if I worked with enough therapists, if I like did enough psychological work and tried different modalities. And it was really just realizing that level of like trying, that level of trying to solve it, squash it, punch it, push it down, kick it out, like was not working. And
And what was
that's
it?
kind of mm, it was a couple things. It was feeling fundamentally confused about the gap between my intentions and the way like others would receive me, the world would receive me. Feeling like cared about people, I wanted to do right by them, I was trying to do things for good. Um, Yet people would like not care or not reciprocate or be kind of not enjoy my company and presence. And I just felt so confusing. I think the other it was just being really unhappy and stressed and scared so often, even if things were going well. It was just waking up in the morning, just ruminating in my head, just stuck in thoughts all the time. Like there was so hard to find peace. I could go to a week-long meditation retreat. I could sit down and meditate for 30 minutes a day, but it was still very algorithmic. If I do all these things, I'll be okay. I'll solve it. So the it was this never being good enough, never really able to connect with others in the way I want to, and just feeling the world fundamentally hated me. Like having a story that the world was against me. And that just shows up everywhere, even as in so much as like maybe I'm a bad person. Maybe that's why the world's like this. I don't deserve better. So yeah, that's what led me to your work. I was finally call it open enough because I got just like, okay, I'm down to try anything now. And when a friend first described your work to me, it seemed like a bit absurd because I was just like, what the hell is he gonna know by looking at me? Like, because my feeling previously was a therapy session would be completely determined by the way I crafted the story, depending on what details I shared or didn't share, depending on my mood that day, the way I showed up.
Mm.
Like, I could tell the way somebody relate to me would be so influenced by the way I was describing it to them. And feeling like an unreliable narrator, I just sort of thought this was like a bankrupt process. And so even if I thought it was absurd, the kernel that like really got me was like, well, shit, if he can just like be able to learn from my movements and my energy without having to rely on my stories and my words and so on, like whoa, somebody actually might have a chance of seeing me deeper, seeing me
Might
clearer
have a
without
chance. Yeah,
my,
right. Yeah.
yeah. And so that's how I kind of decided to take a leap with your work. Is I was like, I'm not going to tell him anything. He's going to like try to ask me questions. I'm going to like say the least amount possible and see what his words back to me are like. It's like as much as I was still like open-minded, I still brought that like I'm gonna be a scientist, I'm gonna run an experiment, like I'm gonna give him no data and
Sure.
let's see how good his guesses are. And so that was the way I kind of leaped into your work.
And then I had you shake your hands. Yeah, then what happened?
Yeah. Say it again.
Nothing was ever the same, huh?
Yeah, who'd have thought going like this for that would change everything.
Yeah.
Um yeah, it's kind of like somebody said it, like the way you can tell somebody's a really good cook is make them make scrambled eggs because there is so few ingredients there. It all is about their taste
Mm.
and skill and refinement and nuance and abilities. And I think it was something similar when it's like you're just asking somebody to shake their hands. There isn't some fancy, complicated thing you're doing.
Right, yeah.
It says a lot. And so I think that's what grabbed me was when you were saying things that were just like, how does he know this about me? It's not on the internet. Like I haven't told him. Like whoa. Um, Occam's razor was like, wow, he is able to actually see me in a deeper way. And that to me is the beginning of actually figuring out what is feels like such a confusing mess. I'm doing all this self work, yet, you know, I'm less happy than my friends are totally
Yeah.
envious.
Yeah.
Um, and it was obvious in any of the things that I really cared about, even if I was purely just practical, you were not gated in inventing by ideas or creativity. It was all the emotions of how do you relate to others, of whether you're willing to show it, are you going to get laughed at? Like, how do you keep working on something if you don't know it's going to work? When do you give up? Like, it all just was about the emotional and psychological aspects. Um, Even in business or entrepreneurship, like, it wasn't about like, could you figure out what's the best way to like capital allocate, like how do you be really clever about certain things. It was like relationship, like in a negotiation, how are you feeling yourself, like about the other person. Hiring somebody, it's not about selling them really hard. It's like do they actually trust you, and is it authentic, do they feel your energy, and it actually inspires them. I could read all the books, but the actual problem was applying it. What was the difficulty in applying it? It was all my own psychological shit. So it was also just kind of, I think I was open to work with you because I felt the cost and I felt the difficulty of, oh wow, it's not about the things that I thought were actually what mattered and was hard. It was all of this. Call it feminine energy, call it being receptive, call it the emotional psychological stuff.
All the stuff you were avoiding and trying to compensate and overcome with your, you know, intellectual, mental capabilities. Because you're smart. You're running
Yeah,
a software company. You invented and created these really world changing things, and so your intellect is, you know, incredibly superior. Um, and so speak a little bit on what you discovered about the limitations of that. You're talking about it now, but that comparison between trying to do everything in the head as some sort of supercomputer uh, versus this almost quantum computer of the body, of the feeling, of tapping into this intuition, to this feeling, the somatic resource available to you.
yeah. I forget if it was you or somebody else, but it was definitely around the same time. They were like, "Explain to me how you ride a bike." I was like, "Okay, you put a foot down and then you do this and that," and it became really clear that my like ability to articulate propositionally, intellectually, like what the act of riding a bike was, just like I couldn't do it. Yet I'm able to ride a bike. And so even if
Yeah.
my brain judges everything by its ability to feel satisfied, like, oh, yeah, what you said was rational. Like, oh, what you said, like, is logically consistent. Oh, what you said is comprehensive and justifiable. Like, okay, pass. This is allowable. Like, if I took that
Yeah.
logic, like, I would be like, wait, I can't ride a bike. Like, I don't have the capacity here. Like, I can't trust any of this. Like, I can't even say that I can ride a bike. And so, which is obviously false. I can ride a bike because
Right.
it's like you're saying, it's that intuition, it's that body knowledge, it's the nervous system, it's the tacit, it's the muscle, it's it's not here, it's here.
Right.
And so, kind of feeling like, whoa, that is real. Kind of feeling like, whoa, what takes so much effort here can just happen with so much ease here.
Mm.
Um, and just having like more and more examples in my life of that where yeah, I would try to recruit a candidate and I would like look up everything about them and try to figure out their interests and this, and I would plan the entire thing around like, okay, what's the intersection of interests here, what's a way to get him interested, what in our project in our company would most be appealing for him, like, and I would just like set it up as like a board game and then the conversation was maneuvering pieces to it. And it takes so much up, you're just in your head, you're not actually with the person and the results wouldn't work out as well. And then when I kind of quote unquote gave up, when I stopped trying, when I just like was like and I actually just could like be in it, I labeled it as not trying, I labeled it as not caring, I labeled it as that because my brain was like, well, you don't know what you're doing, you don't have a plan, you don't do this, you didn't do that. But the results would be way better, like people would want to join and take huge salary cuts. um, and it would really confuse me because I'm like, what the hell is going on? And it's
That wasn't
precisely what
supposed
you're
to
saying.
work.
It's precisely what you're saying. Is I was trying to choose an explainable Intel i5 processor over you have to trust and have faith in it more because you can't as easily justify it or explain it supercomputer or quantum computer here.
Yeah.
And I had
It's
to,
not rational.
yeah, I had to face the reality of that. And it's rational when you get really into it, which is just like, oh, the bandwidth of this is so much more than that. Um, but it was like kind of stepping into places where my brain was labeling, hey, this is unsafe, hey, this is lazy, hey, this is like not caring. And just taking the risk of, okay, I accept those labels for a second. Oh, the results actually show for themselves. What the hell are you talking about, brain? So I think it's painful because I got rewarded my whole life for doing things with my head, and I got penalized for doing things out of emotion, teachers, parents, and so on. And so it's almost like you're asking somebody who at every party they get nervous at, they go back to the same set of jokes or they go back to the same behavior. And it's like a safe place to be. It's almost like you're letting go of that crutch that safe place and going to something that is bigger, more expanded. But you're like, whew, I haven't done these dance moves before.
And last time you've done them, you've got in trouble. Something bad has happened.
True. And spending my entire life indexing on those experiences with my parents, with my sister, with a couple early things like that. Yeah.
So, what would you say you've gotten from this work? What are some of the things that you've realized? What are some of the lessons? What are some of the transformations? Actually, you know what? We're going to go back. We're going to go back before this. In the beginning, when we started working together, what were some of the struggles? What were some of the things that, as we started this process, that you had trouble with, or you were fighting against, or defending, or not understanding? So because with you in particular, we had some interesting first few months. So if you'd like to share a little bit about what that was and why that was, and what all that was about.
Yeah, I don't know if you have the videos handy. That would be fun. But
I have some.
yeah, let me actually just get back into that feeling.
Yeah, just drop into your body.
It's so funny. The immediate thing was it was so like obvious like why I was angry at you then. And now I like cannot even understand. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
what were you angry about? Why? Why did you want to kill him? And find out, take a plane to Nashville or wherever you are. um,
There was a lot of anger.
there's so much anger. There's even like I call it like violent, ways
Yeah.
of expressing it. Um,
Because I mean, you literally told me to my face, I don't know what it is, but I want to reach over there and punch you in the face. This is like our second call, and I'm like, okay, here we go.
yeah, I think it felt like you were, like I had a scab and you like picked it and then you were touching it, and I was like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I think you were making me face shit that I didn't want to face, and it hurts. And so if somebody is hurting you, better ask them to back up. And so I think I saw it as you, yeah, saying stories about me, projecting onto me, trying to like make me feel bad. You were trying to make me feel small. You were invalidating all my accomplishments or abilities or this, all my self work that I've done. So, yeah, it was like you were coming for my edifice, that I would point to, which is it's a lot of identity stuff. Oh, I've done so much work here. I should be better than this. What do you mean I'm not good at this? What do you mean I'm gonna burn out? Like, don't invalidate all the years of suffering and work here. So yeah, it's like on Twitter when people are like waging a jihad because somebody disagrees with them. It was like the emotional version of that. Like you were pointing out to me things that would be so inconvenient and so painful to maybe fully acknowledge or stop pretending that I know them, like pretending that I don't know them, like actually
Right.
acknowledge it. That yeah, you were threatening my edifice.
So, what are some of the other things that you were struggling with?
Yeah, yeah, that's your question. What it is?
Yeah. When we're starting, like even just showing up to the calls, things like this.
Yeah, I would be late for all the calls. It'd be super hard to show up. Um, it would be like 5 minutes before the call. I'd even get up early to be able to make them on time, and I would somehow always be like, "Oh, I need to do this," and I would label it as, "Oh, I'm busy" or this or that, but really, I was just like really trying to squirm out of it because it didn't feel fun at that time. I was like, "Oh God, he's
Yeah.
revealing shit about me I don't want to see." Um, I I think another struggle was not taking what you're saying as just like, oh, he only sees like a small part of me, and he's like making these big claims. Like he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Um, like nah, he doesn't know. Like I can't let him in. And so there was a lot of like, he doesn't know me. How can he be saying this stuff with such confidence and conviction? Here's another example that says the opposite. Here's another example that says the opposite. Like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I have these 10 examples. And so I would take everything you're saying and compare it against all these examples that said otherwise. And so I stayed with that. I stayed with my defenses, my justifications against it. I struggled with trusting you, trusting that like you were good enough, trusting that you had like good intentions, trusting that you weren't just projecting onto me, trusting that you weren't just trying to solve me. Like you had your toolkit and then you were going to apply that to me versus meeting me. Because I often know more than the therapists I work with. And so it was a similar like sure, he says he's going to help, but like,
You're right.
how is it not just his
Yeah.
own shit that's going to come up, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so like I struggled there for a while. I I struggled to like be open to the process because it's painful to like have hope or open yourself up to like, oh, this could make a difference. And every time in the past, it's only been a state. It's not been a stage. It's only been momentary, and then you come back to it. And so I think just even opening myself to the possibility this could change things, opening myself to the idea like this isn't change that requires effort or trying or like holding something up for it to become real or solid or durable. Like that took a while. That took a while for me to like, because it hurts. It's like it's easier to be the cynic than to open your heart up and have it get dashed. So I
Yeah.
think that was a big thing. Actually wanting to change my life, but actually really when it comes down to it, not really wanting it because it's too scary if it doesn't happen. And there's two more things. Uh, I have them as feelings. Let's see if I can. Oh, yeah. Another was not seeing this as absurdly risky, which was like, okay, yeah, this house is rickety, but you're getting me to like remove the rotten wood at the bottom and the whole house is going to collapse. I can't have that collapse because I'm like trying to, this company, like it depends entirely on me. You know, these relationships, like people are still friends with me. They're still in relationship with me, even if it is this, rickety house. And so I was like, yeah, constitutionally against the idea that like, why would you like ever like, why are you coming for that? Like, come on, I can't. No, no, no. We're not removing the bottom Jenga blocks here. We're not touching the rotten wooden planks at the bottom, the crumbling bricks. Like, I can't have everything fall apart. And so that kind of surrender, I think, was something that was very difficult for me and for a lot of this process, kind of accepting whatever comes from it. Um, yeah, I remember like leaving the session and being like, nope, gotta snap out of it. No, 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 no. You gotta like go perform and do all these things. Like you need to, and like, oh my God, how am I gonna do any of that if I'm like, actually feeling into this, like going like letting it all the way, that fear, the timidness, the like, sadness, the grief. Um, yeah, that feels big. And one more thing. I think it was a real struggle to accept how when you let go of a lot of these things and surrender, how simple it is. Simple
Hmm.
but not easy. And because I had a story that like I'm struggling so much because these things are so difficult and so hard to see, and it'll take a lifetime, and like facing the reality that potentially a lot of these failed projects, failed relationships, misery and unhappiness, and that didn't need to be there. Like the story that was, yeah, but like, it's all so hard. It's okay. Actually, like showing myself kindness and compassion and love when things could be and were and are simple, that I think was a big, big leap. Allowing myself to be like, okay, it could be simple. Okay. You don't need to solve this. You don't need to 200 IQ this. Like you kind of know it. So even when you get me to feel into things, I'd be like, I'm just making something up. I'm just saying something. Like, do I even know if this is true? And it's like, you don't need no exhaustive private investigator thing. Like the obvious simple things that come up often are the things. And
Yeah.
it's just right beneath the surface, being okay with it and having the self-kindness for like, yeah, it is simple and was simple and it's right beneath the surface, and that's okay.
Well, because all that stuff would invalidate it. Yeah, if you find out, oh my gosh, there's nothing wrong with me. There's never been anything wrong with me.
Yeah,
It's going to
right.
invalidate, all of this work and suffering and struggle,
All the
right?
stories and struggle. And
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
And so having that willingness is, it's not easy. You have to face, you have to be willing for all of that suffering and struggle to be invalidated in order to have the freedom and peace you've been doing all of that to have.
It's like being out at sea and like for 90 days, like spending half the day bailing water out of your boat and realizing it was just like a little hole that you could have just plugged.
Yep. Yep.
And then being like, no, I'm just going to keep bailing water because I can.
Exactly, and not plug it. Yep. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Just to make it, just to not have to feel
yeah,
all that stuff that you'd feel to realize how silly it was.
right.
It's silly but real, right? It just seems like we're just so convinced that our suffering is real. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Um, and so, with all of that stuff that happened, share a little bit about the experience. Some of the stuff that we've done. We did symbolism work. You talked about the house falling down. We did symbolism about
Right.
this
The 10
tower
zero part.
archetype.
Right. The tower.
We did a lot of the cinesomatic movements.
Yeah.
We did some couple sessions with you and your partner. So share a little bit about what the journey has been like, what the actual experience working together has been, the kind of things that we've done that have been helpful.
Yeah. I think it started with this curiosity being piqued and frame being broken that, whoa, somebody can relate to like this. Like just having me do hand movements or say like, hey, what does giving look like? Or hey, show me what like being useful is. And how hard it was for me to do that. Just like facing like what? And then like, just identifying like, hey, you're trying to control it, you're trying to perform, you're trying to like do it, like let go. What is that? And then when you would bring up kind of what it means for me, like what are the programs I'm running, like what are the beliefs and schemas, I think it started off with a lot of frame break, which is like, wow, holy shit. um and so those first sessions were all around me just being open to the idea that um somebody could help, somebody could see, and somebody could be trusted. And I think the Cinesomatic was so key to that because it didn't rely on me as the unreliable narrator or whatever story I had. And so, yeah, the process was Cinesomatic work to kind of bring up stuff. And then you would really challenge me to get in my body and feel the emotions and get deep and then you would do energy work and try to see if I would let you in, um, and kind of reflect with me. And so going from that kind of diagnosis to actually then trying to then like reverse that wiring and actually feel it, I feel like that's when like the breakthrough started to happen, which was like, whoa. And yeah, I remember at the beginning of the call, I'd want to kill you, I'd be angry, and at the end, I'd be in tears or smiling or like a little kid laughing, seeing that tastes that then I could start blossoming elsewhere in my life and started compounding. Um, and then I started to like really look to our sessions as like one of the backbones to this time where it's like, oh, this company is grist for the mill of this work I'm doing with Andrew. Like, oh, my relationship is grist for the mill of the work I'm doing with Andrew. Suddenly every area of my life is a playground to figure out, to like have these explorations. And so that was a way in which I think your work really started to show up for me, which it was not separate from my life. It was my life. Um, and yeah, it would deepen. Like it would start to be about myself, and then it would go into my immediate relationships and things involving the company and what I am, most worried about or prioritizing. And then I would always express doubts to Andrew, like, "Hey, man, you must have some master plan based off all your understanding of me. Like, why are you letting me guide where the sessions are going? Like, I feel really insecure. I'm just like, tapping the pill button. Like, oh, I just need help on this thing here." And regardless of where we started, this was just like a relationship thing, or hey, this thing with a friend, or this thing with the company, or hey, I'm procrastinating on this. Like, what the hell is going on? They would start there and they go so deep. And so these sessions would start being about my relationship to my dad, my relationship to my mom, these deep dynamics around my family and the way we grew up, and what did I see, and my parents fighting, and relationship to my sister. Um, what were these narratives like young me had about myself? And you'd make me go into be my young self. You'd make me hold him. You'd make me see him. You'd ask him what he would want. And it was this beautiful, it was this beautiful feeling of, oh, you don't need to like figure this out or try or get it right or wrong. Like wherever you start, if you are open and receptive, it finds its way. Because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. You are, in the smallest of ways, in the biggest of ways, they match together. And so even in the couples work that we did, seeing like, whoa, I didn't think that thing that Andrew helped me see around my mom or around being valuable like shows up in all of these little things. Sure, I could see it in the big picture, abstract, but the fact that like that little fight around cleaning this up, that little fight around driving the car, like that little fight around that, whoa, being controlling here, not trusting there. Oh wow, that's actually not me just being rational and the adult. That's like this. um, we spent a lot of time around work, like where I was saying struggles in the company and personnel issues and conflicts and hey, what's going on? And I would be like, Andrew, is this right? Like maybe this is like a waste of time. Maybe we should focus on bigger things. And
Yeah,
so,
important things,
more,
right? The
right?
ego thinks, one's,
Yeah,
important and not.
and just through like doing movement work, energy work, you kind of like really making me feel safe and going into it, being like, whoa, this goes into core dynamics around me being a good person or a bad person, me being valuable or not valuable, the way I have to show up to be worthy of other people's love, um, whether I'm intrinsically, yeah, belong or not. Um, and so the process, I would say, over time was more and more surrendering to you, to the process, and to just faith in the things. Um, and so it
And
got
yourself.
easier and easier. Yeah, yeah, to myself as well. Even if I, on feeling, not even if my brain, allows it. And yeah, just I remember how quickly and easily I would be in tears in our sessions, and that was always something that was really difficult for me, is accessing crying. And so that was another way of like, wow.
Well, and then even from there, right, getting you from, the fake crying to the real crying.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Forgot
you
about
said
that.
there's
Yeah.
so many layers of manipulation
Yeah.
and defense and this, and
Yeah.
yeah, I remember kind of like feeling like, God damn it, and like, ooh, that's what I'm working with. It's like you picked like the most intense karate master who like is able to stop all of your tricks, even if you got some like,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
try to be a little dirty. And that's where I was just like, I feel safe because like to your point, like because I'm able to get away with that. I don't trust people
Yeah.
or respect them in this. And because you were able to like really notice like, all these techniques and manipulations and stuff I was doing super subtly, maybe like not even completely aware
Yeah.
to
You
my
didn't even know. Yeah.
yeah. I feel like that was really powerful in terms of like, whoa, okay, this is this is going deep.
Not fun, right? It's not fun being called out on it when your whole life. You even told me you're like all the professors, everyone in my life. I've gotten away with this with everyone. Why should I not get away with it with you?
Yeah,
Well,
literally, literally.
this is your life. I don't care, but this
Right.
is you're conning yourself too. And yeah, yeah, it's hard for a lot of us when we're so used to doing that and we think we're so sincere in it, especially crying, especially emoting. And when we do the group work, sometimes I will do the same thing. I'll give the feedback. I'll call someone out on the manipulation. Just people can't see it because they're manipulated by it. They're like, oh, this person's crying. You're telling them they're faking it. Well, people fake crying. And sometimes they don't realize it. And so it's that level of telling the truth. It's that level of being willing to offend or upset in order for that truth to come through. And so not only is it something I'm doing as a facilitator, but it's a reference point for you in your own life of how important it is to tell the truth, no matter what. And it's not fun, and there's all this responsibility, and there's that part of our ego that wants to get away with stuff. It's like we want to be special. We want to be the one that doesn't have to abide by the stuff. Um, but you eventually find out that it's a whole lot of work to get away with stuff that just doesn't matter. It makes your life less functional. Um, and then, like you said before, that coming to terms with, oh my God, well, if I just showed up on time, all of that energy to mastermind and to do all of this, it's feeling like I'm getting off on the superiority stuff. It just invalidates it. So yeah, there was a lot of sessions we had where you just fucking were like really, violent and aggressive against this stuff. And myself understanding that it's not personal, right? It's understanding and helping you understand that it's not personal to me.
Right.
It's not personal to you. This is just your ego defenses. This is just a story that's being activated. And eventually you were able to penetrate this stuff. And so I'm gonna ask just one more question, and then we're gonna look at some of these videos so we can uh, actually see you doing this stuff. Because the great thing about the cinesomatic work is that you get to see yourself doing these things,
Yep.
right? So it's not just some therapist or guru saying, well, this is what I see about you, and they're just projecting their stuff, like, which was your concern. And it's a valid concern because a lot of them do. And I'm not perfect, but, I've put in the work to be able to be that clear reflection. And we have the video. We have the video to be even clearer than me. It's the most clear. There's no distortions. It's the exact thing that happened.
You have to face it.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so share a little bit about your experience with the video, about seeing yourself doing these things and how, as I say it, you don't believe me. And
Oh
then
no.
when you watch it, you're like, oh my God, that's me. What?
Yeah, you would say it. I'm like, that's not what my internal experience was. And then me looking at myself being like, oh my God, yeah, like, oh my God, you are sad, or oh my God, like that did not feel real. Oh my God, I can see that that's like you're trying, you're not actually present. It was stunning to compare my internal experience
Yeah.
versus actually seeing it and seeing how often there was a huge delta. There was a difference between the two. Was like, whoa. I think it made me so much more open to your work because it proved it. It proved that like,
Yeah.
oh, my firsthand experience does have some reverse wiring here. I am myself able to objectively see and say see what Andrew's talking about. Like, okay, take the risk of feeling this, being like, it's okay, it's right, I'm not doing that, and still just like stepping through it. Um, it was stunning. It was stunning almost all of the times. I don't even now, just earlier today, you were showing me a video, and I was like, whoa, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
And
And this came in too with your partners at work, right? So there's all different ways that
right, right,
I work with people, helping people in their business, relationships, whatever it is, because it really doesn't matter. How, like you said, how you do one thing is how you do anything, which is a foundational, cornerstone of this work. And so when we were working with one of your business partners at your work, and you got to see finally what they've been trying to tell you for months or years about how you've been showing up, you finally were able to penetrate your defenses to that, and you got to see, oh my gosh, oh, look how violent I'm being. Look how, all this stuff. So share that experience of this video and the cinesomatic work and the
yeah,
feedback through my facilitation,
yeah,
how that helped in that instance.
yeah. Yeah, basically, I had some difficulties with a coworker who he would give me feedback, or I'd be confused on what he would say for months and months and months and months and months. And I was just like, what the hell is he talking about? Like, that's not what I'm doing. Come on. And yeah, it took literally like one session with you watching the video. And it was like, example one, example two, example three, example four, where you're trying to take a pause, you're trying to take a
Dish,
serious,
dish,
very
dish, dish.
heavy angle.
Hey, oh.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, exactly. I was just like, okay, okay, oh, crap. And it's just stunning because you're literally looking at yourself and you're
Yeah.
like, holy crap, like I am doing that. And so I was able to look at him with a new light, which was like, oh, what if what he's saying actually is true? Just because my internal experience didn't corroborate with that doesn't mean that it's not true, or it's not, his reality
Right.
as well. So yeah, one session did what,
Yeah.
6 months, 7 months of heart to hearts, 9 months.
Yeah. And the funny thing is too is that what I had you do seemed, so silly, right? I just said, get up and walk around the room.
Yeah, it was so simple. That's the crazy part of your technique is it's so simple. It's the scrambled eggs. It really reveals what's underneath
Yeah.
because it's so simple. Yeah, you had us walk around the room. You had us just like look at each other and just like build something, like pretend to build something. It was nothing complicated.
Yeah. And no, we didn't have spreadsheets, we didn't have worksheets and lists of stuff to do and exercises and all this kind of cheesy frameworky stuff. It was super organic. I said, just get up and move. Let's see how you interact energetically, physically in the body, how you role play with each other in this situation. And very little constraints. So I just said, get up, walk around, you know, XYZ. Here are the constraints, the rules. We record it and we play it back. And I remember your coworker, your employee there, they thought, I mean, it was just this fun game, right? They're like, oh, that was a neat like playing exercise. And then by the end of it, it's like, oh, there was so much more. Yeah, it's not what people expect, huh? And I even remember it's like, what the hell is the point? Like, what is this? Like, okay, that was neat. I had fun maybe, but
Yeah,
come on, we got a business to run here. Like, what the hell is this?
yeah, yeah, every time I'm just like, why are you asking me this? Why are you doing this? And then quite often it's like, oh shit, okay, wow. I think I like the power of it not just being your word, but me seeing it. Like
Yeah.
it's so powerful. It's so powerful. And that was like a key dynamic of a lot of this was like going from so much anger and wanting to kill you to the end being like having so much love for you because yeah, you would say the uncomfortable things. You would say the things that would cause like me to lash out in because it was in my service and like you would go there and you were willing to do it and you didn't take it personal and that was so healing too when I could lash out and you wouldn't take it personal and my body was like oh wow okay like I'm not a bad person like oh wow like I could relate to that other way so even just that arc of coming to like be really grateful for your commitment to my care and that truth and um, yeah I'd say that was like a big arc of the work as well.
I like how you say arc because it really was this story unfolding. Um, yeah. So the last question before we take a look at some of this video um, is what you got out of this. So what's been changing in your life? What are the realizations? You've shared a lot already, but what are some of the big takeaways that have the difference between now who you are and who you were before starting?
Yeah. I think I'm a lot more vulnerable, I'm a lot more receptive to people. Um, I listen more, I'm more open minded. Things that I'm like completely sure about, I like give room now to let somebody else's point of view in. I'm more okay taking the risk of trusting. Um, I was able to reconnect with my parents in a deeper way and more forgiving. Like, I had quite the admission from my dad, something I've asked him for years and years to admit to or take ownership for. And he finally did. He refused the entire time before. And instead of feeling so super righteous or justified or like I told you so or angry or like God damn it, instead I was like really grateful and forgiving and just like wow I yeah it was just a way of relating to him I never would have done for something that I so badly wanted and thought caused so much pain. Being so much softer with my mom and not being resentful as much of all the stuff where I came to like I was resenting her for a lot of years of you did this to me, you caused me this trauma that that was so unfair of you. How could you do that to a kid? Blah blah blah. And instead, just kind of being like, hey, I'm able to like see that, I'm able to let go of it, and it's not personal to you, and like I can forgive you, and that's okay, and I can see the care you have and who you are today. One of the biggest things of the year and of the decade was like reconnecting with my sister because I'm not trying to be something for her. I'm not trying to do, I'm not living in this fear. I'm just so much more like I understand the way I showed up has affected you like that. And I take ownership and responsibility. And I don't know what I'm doing now to affect you, but I'm open to hearing you and I want to relate to you. And for the first time, like actually after a decade, reconnecting, like life changing um, in relationships with my partner. Yeah, not as much being rigid and in my own stories and feeling things are unfair, but actually better able to understand them and their point of view and meet them where they are. Um, so, kind of every dimension of my life work, romantic, family, even with friendships, like so much better at boundaries, so much better at like just showing up authentically, not trying super hard in a party or a hangout. Just like if I'm tired, tired, if I'm energetic, energetic. Not having the same need to prove myself and being okay acting on um, what my feelings are, trusting that, like actually just trusting my feeling. And whether that means holding a boundary with somebody, whether that means as something as simple as like, hey, I'm going to leave this conversation. Hey, I'm going to leave this party. Hey, I'm not going to be in scarcity and trying to do this. Like, that's okay if I, like respect myself and also just really hard decisions. at work as well with the company in terms of personnel changes and company direction and strategy that never would have been possible before. It would have been so hard. It would have been like, I'm betraying people, I'm letting them down, I'm doing all of this. I'm a bad person. This is me doing more of that. Actually, just having the space and freedom to make some of the hard choices that are required for you know having the company survive and succeed into the world. Just still lots of struggle, but there's a deep feeling of like, oh, like this is the way. Like avoiding this struggle is the suffering, as kind of talked about. Like this
Yeah.
sadness or grief, or like me being a little timid here or a little insecure there, is like actually me finally showing up and like shining light on the parts that I'm like, nope, not allowed. Therefore, I'm stuck in the same cycle.
Yeah.
So
That shadow material.
lots of shadow work, yeah.
Well, and exactly what you said is that we think, the ego creates the shadow material. It's all this part that we don't want. This isn't bad. I don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want to be timid. I don't want to be any of this stuff. And then you actually go into it, you just do the shadow work, and you penetrate it, and you realize, as you realize today, right when we finish this final call, that, oh my gosh, that is actually where I'm lovable. That's actually the place where people can love me.
And I've been creating my own reality because of that, because I've been denying that. And I'm like, oh, the world hates me. Why do people not reciprocate the way, you know? It's just realizing and feeling that grief.
I mean, that alone is huge, realizing that we're the ones that created the world that hates us, and seeing it in ourselves and say, okay, well, when I do the opposite, when I go into this stuff that I've been avoiding and rejecting and judging, and I'm actually smiling and happy and, open and penetrable, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's probably one of
Yeah.
the biggest takeaways from this work is like all the stuff I've been labeling as bad. There's a lot of reverse wiring there. And like what I've been labeling as good, it's not necessarily like that. And so what I've been blaming the world actually has been me creating my own reality. And so like owning up to that, seeing it, and then also seeing the transcendence of that has been like huge. And having kindness for myself. That, these are the life experiences behind it. It's like the parts of me inside don't mean bad. They're just, really overtrained on particular life experiences. So just kind of loosening, being in so much tension.
Yeah, you're the death grip.
Just funny because the death tarot card, and that happening this week, and then this being our last thing, feels
Yeah.
like it all came together.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we do in this work, and it seems, it can seem just so bizarre or unrelated. Then by the end of the session, or a month later, you're like, oh my god, that's exactly what I was going through. Yeah, yeah, it's quite special. Well, thank you for sharing all of that. I think it's very helpful for people to hear what's possible. When somebody who's very functional and brilliant and running a business like yourself, who has came into this work and struggled with all of this stuff, and in just a few months, you get decades of transformation. All the therapists, all the other kind of modalities might have been helpful, but the the uniqueness of doing this in a completely opposite way, and doing things in a way that's not rational, that the ego judges, and going into all of the stuff that we've avoided, you find out that that's where all the gold is. And it's in you. It's in you. Like I didn't say, all right, here's this self-love. Here, now take it, put it in your body. Here's this pill for being softer, right? You had all of this within you. Just like all of the anger you had in the violence in the beginning. I didn't make you do that. That was within you already. And all of the softness and self love and sweetness and leadership ability, all of that stuff's within you already.
Mm. Yeah, just really feeling like this is not an acquiring process. It's not a gaining process. It's like a subtractive process. Like it's all there. I just have to reveal it. It changes everything because it's not scarcity. Oh, will I get it? Do I have it? How? It's, oh, I have it. Let me see it, find it, embrace it.
Yeah, it's much more easy. It's peaceful, right?
Yeah,
It's
letting go.
yeah, stopping. You just stop doing all this crazy stuff that gets in the way of your true self. Yeah. And loving yourself anyway, right? It's like, man, I'm doing this crazy, wacky thing that just creates all the suffering. Cool. Wow, it's amazing what we do as humans. Wow, I understand why I would make that choice, protect myself, to keep myself closed and safe because I was hurt. It's all valid. And now that you know that by continuing doing that, it's only going to create more suffering. It's like, now you know. And so there's a lot of grace. What I'm hearing you saying this is you're allowing a lot more grace for yourself in your life. Because that stranglehold you had over yourself is what you were doing to me and your partners, people at work, right? It's that same stranglehold of perfection or whatever that was about.
It's this and this.
Yeah. Which comes down to a trust, right? And that was a lot of what you learned with your partner when we did that partner work and this whole process. Great. Let's take a look at some of these. We're going to do some little before and after kind of video here. So let's bring up our first call. This was the assessment.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So we're not going to look through all the whole thing, but we're just going to get a little reference point of how you were earlier this year. You can see the massive amount of aggression here, right?
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, this is a lot of pain. Can you see how much pain this is?
Yeah, I remember I was just like, ugh, like I have to. Yeah, I'm like trying. I'm trying, and like the way I'm breathing and like it's effort and my eyes. Like,
Yeah. I mean, there is this crazy sort of, and you're going to see in a lot of these the amount of arrogance, superiority that was there. This just feels all this dismissiveness, and are you able to see this stuff now?
yeah, I can
Yeah,
see it. It's like, look at me. I'm so elegant. All of you leave and look at me and get out of
yeah.
here.
Yeah, it's like you're above this. It's like you're above doing this stupid exercise with this guy. He's just like all this pain, right? It's just you're trying so hard. And this was that steamrolling energy you talked about. You're just forcing it. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
What is this?
I think I
Yeah.
was trying to be playful, but it's still with, yeah,
You
like
just
I
see
said,
how
like,
dismissive it is,
yeah.
right? So there's a lot of power here, but you can see the place the power is coming from is your
Mm,
ego.
mm. Oy, 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 oy.
Very dismissive.
Yeah. Jeez.
And
It's
very
so
self-abusive.
intense. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
There's a lot of self-abuse. Do you see how you're hitting yourself?
Yeah, you pointed that out and I didn't. Yeah, it felt so normal then. I'm just like being playful. And now I'm like, that doesn't look playful.
No, it doesn't. It's just a
And then
massive amount of.
when you showed me how other people did it, I was like, whoa. I
Yeah.
thought this was normal. I didn't realize how intense. Wow.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
And you're exhausted, right?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, so this was going big. You can see you're out of your body. And so it's like you're doing this huge thing. And I said that, it's like this is a really big thing, but you're just gonna burn yourself out.
Mhm.
Remember that? And then what are you telling me about what was happening in your business,
Yeah, I was like, God damn it, how do you know this? It's exactly
So,
my pattern. Like try to go too big and then burn out. Yeah.
right, and then afterwards, beat yourself up,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
Going into this self-abuse.
Oh my God.
I think this was giving.
Yeah. 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 It's like condescending.
It is very condescending. Exactly. Yep. And maybe, right, you're thinking, "Oh, I'm being very nice and sweet,"
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you can feel a bit of the patronizing in it.
Oh, totally.
Oh, yes. This like, you know,
Receiving or
yeah. It's just like going through the motion, right?
yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. It's so like I was so convinced. I'm like, oh, I'm feeling
I
so much.
know.
Wow. Yeah. It's just it's like somebody at the end of a wedding when they're just like, thank you, yep, thank you, thank
Yep,
you, thank you. After
exactly.
every person, they're just
Oh, aren't you? Aren't you the best?
like, oh
Yeah.
my God. Oh, what was the prompt for this one?
I think it was like making money.
Or being in charge or something like that?
Yeah, something.
Being powerful or
Or yeah, I think leadership or something. Show me being a leader, being in charge. Yeah, something like this.
yeah, being in charge, maybe.
I mean, just look how just you're getting off on this power.
Oh my God. Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
talk about, like evil prince, right? Or maybe just, you know, entitled
Yeah.
prince.
Yeah, like Joffrey.
See how aggressive and violent it is. I think this was generosity.
Really? I'm gonna smash you with gifts. Oh wow.
Jesus. I mean, you can see that, it's moving a lot, but it's just there's so much pain, right? I like the finger wiggle. It's just like, what is it? But you remember then this you were so serious. You thought this was so real,
Yeah,
right?
it was so real. Because I wasn't doing it from my head. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. You just there's this you got a little deeper here. Jesus. All this heavy lifting. I mean, this is just like talk about
Wow.
overcompensating. You know, you this is selfishness, right?
Was it selfishness?
Yeah. Wow. So we got a next one. We're gonna go through these quick. There's that one. And then this one was okay. So this one was Japan. We'll just see this one for a quick minute, just so you can see yourself.
I look different in all of them. Like not
I
just
know.
physically, like energetically. But
I mean, this is when you were just being so superior and arrogant, so
mm,
dismissive.
mm,
But like, if someone looks at it, oh, he's just this happy guy, but
yeah.
in just your face, if you look the difference between this, there's so much smugness in here. You can feel it in the lips, eyes. And this is when you just said, hey, I'm gonna for 10 minutes just lie down
Oh
and say,
yeah.
F you.
Yeah, you were like asking me to do something. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna do
Yeah, I mean, it literally said, all right, move like this. And you said, no, I'm literally gonna lie on the floor.
it.
It's like, your life wasn't working doing that. And then we're gonna go to this one where you had this pretty big breakthrough. Shows an example of this reverse wiring. And this felt like what? Like it felt like you
Felt
were
like I'm hitting against a glass cage in between me and the world. Like I'm in a glass box. I'm trying to like get out into the world. I'm like banging on the glass, being like, "What? Oh my God, why am I trapped?"
right.
But you were like, "No, you're creating it. You're pushing
Yeah.
people away."
And then right, so you were doing this.
Yeah.
You're doing it more down here. Yeah, so there's this whole thing of you building this whole thing. And then what was my instruction? I said,
Do the exact opposite. Like do the
yeah,
exact same movement, but in reverse.
yeah, that's this. And notice you're even right here, you're starting to feel something. You start letting yourself feel all this pain. So, you went from pushing everybody away, to bringing things into you. And it revealed this whole thing, right? This huge breakthrough, and it was just literally doing it in reverse, what you've been doing your whole life, through the body. We didn't say anything. There's no conversation here. And so what's that about?
Yeah, it was literally, you made me do that movement in reverse, and immediately I got so sad.
Yeah.
It's like, it's what you said, like the body knows, and like it knows, like it's all stored there. Wow. Just experiencing, yeah, that pain of being received, so such a lacking that has been so painful.
Yeah. It's in the body. All right, now let's look at this last one. Now, this was just a week ago. And so this is, we saw the giving from your first session. And just look how completely different this is. And so we've talked about some of the things that are in this too, but just from the feeling, just the complete opposite of all of that aggression and arrogance and narcissism. And so people may, see this as, okay, well, you're less confident or less timid, but look how much happier you are. Look how much more real you are, how much more accessible you are, how much more there's people around you that actually would want this rather than being pushed away and attacked and feeling violent against. Look at the smile, compared to the prior smiles we just saw.
Mm.
There's actually joy here. There's sweetness. There's joy. You're actually giving value rather than attacking people.
Mm.
There's none of this superiority or arrogance. All of that arrogance and superiority was to cover this up that you thought was bad.
That like total aggressiveness in that first video.
Yeah. Because this feels vulnerable, right? This doesn't feel good. And here's your wedding cake. So you're giving. You're actually offering things of value here. And look, this is so much more fun. So you compare this guy to that first guy. Big difference, huh? This is real. This is lovable. It's really hard to love aggression and violence and arrogance.
Yeah. It's like stunning when you put it beside each other like that.
So, let's wrap up here. So, what's your takeaway? Is this something that you would recommend to others?
No, it's too intense. Don't do it. Stop living your life. Just like live your calm.
No, wrong answer.
This dysfunctional life. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's funny how so much of life is like pretending to actually want change. Like the feeling of wanting like freedom, but actually not wanting it. Like the feeling of wanting to change your life, but it's like, oh wait, that's inconvenient and difficult and hard, and I don't really want it. And so I think actually experiencing something that genuinely does change your life in such fundamental ways, so unique, powerful, scary, enlivening, and yeah, of course. Why would you not recommend this? And as you've seen, I have to lots of friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, the proof's in the pudding, and I think it doesn't need to be more complicated than that. It's not like, hey, if you do this work 10 years in the future, everything will be better. It's like you just asked, like, hey, how was your like time with your partner yesterday, right? Like it was just really the small things in life, the big things in life, they all represent each other. So um, yeah, I hope this is a modality like more people can develop the the skill you have, the energetic capacities you have, such that more people can experience this.
Yeah. That's the idea. As it saved my life. You know, it saved a lot of people's lives, changed lives, and it works fast. It's intense. It's challenging. But as you said, works. You know, so this isn't. I'm not a theory-based person or an evidence-based person or any of that. You know, I'm a results-based person. You know, we do what gets results. And the great thing is that we have the video, and it shows us. It's like, oh, you know, what's the actual numbers in your bank account? What's the actual relationships like? How do people see you? What are their, you know, what are they closest people in your life? You know, do they love you or, you know, not? You know, what are you doing? How are your relationships manifesting in your life? At work, in business, friends, family, your lovers? You happy? Do you wake up loving yourself? I mean, just that alone. Can you look in the mirror and love every bit of yourself? That alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any final words? We'll wrap up here.
Yeah, it's probably just been last year and this year like the most important years of my life, and this one just at the crux of all of this like, was one huge takeaway from this year. There's so many, right? Surrendering, accepting, letting go as a way of doing it. But this kind of like one key kernel at the bottom of this work and the rest of my life and other things that came together was this like, I'm not a fundamentally bad person. Like at the bottom of it all, I'm not bad. And it seems like everything else is just an outgrowth of that shift to like, okay, I'm good. And so I don't think you can, it's hard to find something deeper in life that one can impact and change. So remember you saying that earlier in the process, that deepening over the months.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your willingness to share this. I think it'll be very insightful and helpful for a lot of people, whether they want to do this work or not. You know, there was a lot of wisdom and revelation in what you shared. So thank you for the willingness to show up and do this work and trust me and also stay with me in the process and keep showing up even when things were hard. And it seems like you got a lot from it. So thank you.
And thank you for your like dedication, care, genuine passion you have for this, like the flexibility and tough love you're able to show me. And I think that just was such a key part of making this work was like, you really do fucking care. And you um, really do believe in this. And so that really, I think that really is one of the key fuels behind this having the impact it has. So really times a million.
Thank you. Thank you again. We'll be seeing you soon.
All right. Till next time.
Yep.